What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Nelson Media. We are continuing our personality breakdown series on the Inkwell, and today we're talking about Harold and Heather. Harold and Heather are an interesting couple. We first meet them when Drew goes to a tennis court with his family to play. Harold is first seen looking at another woman's butt while playing tennis with his wife. Now, I think Harold has a lot of qualities of someone with narcissistic personality disorder, and we're going to dive a little bit more into that in a minute. On one of the serves, Heather chases a loose ball and trips and falls in the process. Drew helps Heather up and he flirts with her a little bit, and you notice that Harold could care less. He asks her if she's alright, and he just goes back to the game like nothing happened. Heather is personified as this innocent, meek, almost naive woman, while on the other end, her husband is more aggressive, more dominant, more confident seeming. The couple doesn't have all that much screen time in the movie, but when they are shown, you see Harold's narcissistic personality on full display. We have both of them at a party where Heather leaves to get some fresh air and Harold immediately goes to flirting with another woman. Drew meets Heather outside and they have a very surface conversation, but the writers of this film go out of their way to show how meek and soft-spoken Heather is. It's immediately contrasted when Harold comes out and he yells at her and tells her to come on so that they can leave. You really notice that she just doesn't fight back, she just stays quiet, she says bye to Drew and just leaves along like nothing happened. And that right there is something that's very characteristic of a narcissistic relationship, where one person has all the power and the partner tends to be more withdrawn and more muted and goes out of their way to be more non-confrontational, walks on eggshells, that type of thing. Lately, people have been labeling these types of narcissistic men as alpha males. But in reality, they're men with personality disorders that have very specific traits. One of those traits is a grandiose sense of self-importance. You can see this inside Harold by just the way he carries himself. Very well dressed, very confident, flirtatious, doesn't seem to really care about anything. You can see it in his lack of empathy, and that's with his indifferent reaction to his wife falling down at the tennis court. And you can see, like, interpersonally between the two of them, it's almost like oppressive behavior. You can see it in how he spoke to her at the beach. He showed different things throughout the movie where he just doesn't value her, things like that. Last but not least, he shows egotistical and conceited behaviors. And he's shown this on multiple occasions where Drew runs into Harold cheating at the beach. Drew's walking around town, kisses him cheating around town. He just doesn't care that he's in a committed relationship. He's just going to do his own thing. Now, a moment came when Harold started putting the pieces together that Drew was onto him. So he quickly tries to pay him off and send him on his way. But Drew caught him one too many times, so he attempts to tell Heather, but he ends up not being able to do it properly probably because he didn't want to see her get hurt. Drew ends up getting some revenge for Heather as he sabotages Harold's car later on in the film, and I think everybody got a little bit of satisfaction because, anyone hates seeing a cheater get away with it. Now, Harold ends up getting caught anyway as Heather confronts him with a bottle of wine and a bag that she found it in, which indicated that he was with another woman when he told her he was at work. Harold immediately tries to lie and cover himself, but Heather isn't having any of it. Next, Heather says something very important that I want you to hear.
Admit it. I need to hear you say it. Tell the truth.
This is a very subtle but powerful statement. She says, I need to hear you say it. That indicates that for a long time, Heather has probably been gaslit by Harold. Gaslighting is what happens when a person causes you to question your own reality, reasoning, sometimes even your own sanity by their lies and their other deceitful methods. By Heather telling Harold she needs to hear him say it, it can mean that she's had different suspicions for a long time, but Harold has always been able to smooth talk her and make her feel like she's the crazy one for suspecting anything. He can make himself out to be the most loving husband, and she's just the insecure wife. And you can even hear it with how he's talking to her, saying things like this.
Remember, it's just you and I, baby. Just you and I. Forget everybody. Forget everybody else.
That's called love bombing. He's showering her with affection in order to gain her trust, and he uses that manipulation to keep her in place while he goes and cheats and bees with other women and mistreats her and things like that. Now, a lot of people don't realize how emotionally damaging being in a relationship with a narcissist can be. It can be so damaging that you question what love really is. Because after you've been love bombed, verbally abused, gaslit, apologized to, then back to love bombing again, you go into this cycle and it never stops. And it just becomes so exhausting until you just break. And that's what happened to Heather. She's finally had enough and she kicks him out and she breaks down. Now, Heather can qualify as a victim of narcissistic abuse, and healing from that can take a long time and can compromise your decision making in future relationships. This is really evident that Heather is just completely broken when you see that she actually seeks comfort in the arms of a 16-year-old Drew and sleeps with him. To me, this was the most significant relationship in the movie, as so many people can identify with being in a narcissistic relationship and can really empathize with Heather. Although Harold was one of the easiest narcissists to identify you'd probably ever see, a lot of people may not have noticed that Lauren had a lot of the same characteristics. Narcissism isn't only identified in men, and there are many women that carry the exact same qualities. Take a look at our breakdown of Lauren and drop a comment on any similarities that you pick up on. If you have a movie that you'd like to see a breakdown for, drop it in the comments and I'll see you in the next series. Take care.